Alright, Mrs. Sewell. So here's just a quick little lesson summary for you from our first lesson of the year. This first lesson, like we said, we were just going to take it a little bit at a time. So we just did a 30-minute lesson to begin with. And we're just going to focus on one thing throughout this video. I took a look at you hitting a couple swings, and you tended to be pulling everything off to the left. So if we take a look right here, I just drew this line as kind of an idea for about where the club and your hand should swing. Doesn't have to be exactly on it, but it should be somewhere in the region of that line. So if we watch, going back, you'll recall we talked about how this club face looks right here. You can see it's in this position where it's kind of looking more towards the sky. Well, that's an open alignment that club face is in, which during the lesson we talked about if the club face is open like that, when you get down towards the ball to impact, you're going to have to really work hard to square it up to not hit it off to the right, and I'll show you later in this video when and how that's taking place. But we mentioned with trying to keep swinging the club from further behind us, we also wanted to have the club face kind of pointing in a position that would look more like this angle right here, where the face would be pointing back towards the golf ball, or looking down towards the ground. So let's continue the swing here. And if we watch, we can see how the hands, the arms, and the golf club, all three of them, they all start to move up and above this line. And then when we watch the downswing, rather than coming down from behind your body, which behind your body would be more from back in here, wouldn't be exactly on this line, but somewhere close to this line going through the middle of your body. But if we watch your golf club and how it tracks down to the golf ball, it keeps going further and further out until it gets about as far out as it can right here. So then from here it tracks down to the golf ball kind of on this line. And actually it goes a little further out. And from there it becomes very hard to not cut across the golf ball. The strike on the golf ball becomes more of a glancing blow rather than a nice solid strike. And if I move these lines out of the way, we'll take a quick look here. So remember, this club face position, when it's sitting like this, that's a very open position. So you're going to have to do a lot of work with your wrists and hands to square it up, and we'll watch that take place. The bottom of the screen here is blocking it a little bit, but we'll watch how this club face turns closed very quick here. And it turns closed. And then we hit the ball. This one I think was only a hair left of your target. This was actually one of your better pre-lesson swings. So just to let it run through full speed once for you. Back, up, and then out, and across. And we can see a couple things in the finish I'll just point out. One of the first things we worked on a year ago when we first started working was finishing over on our left side, which you've rotated very, very nicely here, but you haven't moved your weight far enough forward throughout the swing. You still have a lot of pressure towards your back foot. Let's take a look now. Here was a practice swing where I just kind of zoomed in on your torso. And the camera's a little unsteady here, but let's go ahead and throw this line in again. We'll start from up here. And there was no golf ball. This was just a practice swing. Okay, we'll watch the club come up. Comes up a little lower. Still ends up going up a hair, where we'd want to see the hands and the golf club and everything stay more behind you over in here, and we'll work on that in lesson 2. We're gonna work hard on this for a little while. But in this practice swing where I was telling you needed to swing the club from more behind you, you do a nice job of then getting it back there. So if you can see, the club's back in here now. Right, so it comes from back in here. Let me get rid of this line. Rather than in that first swing that I showed that you made, the club kind of came down from all the way over here. And you swing the club down and out, and then it goes around you. But we still finish with the weight a little bit on our back side. Now, if you think about it, man, this camera was shaky. If you think about it, if you're going to watch your Georgia Bulldogs, and they're playing the LSU Tigers, right? So you're going to see the Bulldogs kicker get up there to kick the game-winning field goal. And if you watch the kicker for the Bulldogs, when he sets up to kick the ball, he's not going to stand directly behind it. So if this golf ball was a football, he's not going to stand directly back here and kick at it very straight on, like this blue line from your first swing was doing. He's going to stand off to the side over here, and he's going to kick in on it on an angle because he can generate more power if he comes in on an angle. Well, it's the same thing in the golf swing, which is why it's really important that we get the club further behind us. Okay? So now, just to move on to the last swing I recorded of the day. So first swing was before we did anything. This was you practicing swinging the club more behind you without a golf ball. And here, in this swing, this was a little bit later in the lesson, just still with the same feeling of swinging the club from more behind you. And so if we watch, backswing. Alright, so the club still comes from further behind you than it was in the first swing. Right, so just as a line to draw. So first I'll take this. And it was kind of like out in here was that first swing I recorded. This yellow line's about where we'd like to be. And then this red line, this red line will probably represent about where you swing it down in this swing. And again, note, if you look at how this club face is pointing, it's still pointing up in the air. So that's a very open position. We'll work on that next week. But from first swing to this swing, you've made drastic improvements in how the club comes down from the top of your backswing. And you can actually kind of see in this swing that on this ball, we actually launched it pretty good here. Not a pull, launched it nice and high. Maybe a little left. Alright, so just a quick review of all we worked on in lesson 1, just a quick little 30-minute session. Took a look at some swings. I showed you how far outside the club was coming from, and we worked on getting it a little lower. So just in 30 minutes, we were able to move the club from out here to coming through your shoulder over here. So this next week, hopefully we can get it coming down through your torso a little bit more, and we're going to keep working on getting that club face in a more square position early on in your golf swing, and it'll make the through swing a lot easier for you. All right, Mrs. Sewell, I'm glad we're working together again this season, and if you have any questions, you know where to reach me. Bye-bye now.